Welcome back, everybody, to the Live Your Best Life Alternative Health and Wellness Summit. Today, we're speaking with Anissa Hudak. Anissa is a yoga therapist and founder of the Trauma Healing Yoga Therapy Program. She guides others in the use of effective, science-based yoga therapy and other holistic techniques for the management and healing of symptoms relating to PTSD and trauma for people who want to control their PTSD and not allow it to control them. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So, what led you to start exploring the alternative health and wellness industry?
I became a Reiki master in 2011, and that was really what kind of prompted my whole holistic journey, if you will. My husband was active duty at the time, and we found out that he was deploying. It was going to be his second deployment, and we were about a month out from his deployment, and we told our two young sons. And within 3 days, our oldest son started with uncontrollable diarrhea. And we had all kinds of testing done. And literally, the brigade surgeon came back to us and said, "There is nothing wrong with your child. I can't give you anything medication-wise to make it stop. He has a nervous stomach." And so, of course, my husband can't not deploy. So he leaves the country, and I'm left with this child who just kept soiling his pants. I mean, it was uncontrollable. And so I did a lot of research. Reiki kept coming up for me. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and test this out. So I went and I had a Reiki session done, and it was absolutely amazing. And I knew I needed to be able to do this for my son. And so I went and I took my, level 1, level 2. And then almost about a year later, I went back and became a master. One of the things that for me was very grounding is doing yoga. And so I decided, why go to somebody else's class? I should learn to do it for myself. And so I started taking teacher trainings. I had no desire to ever teach yoga. Was not on my radar. I was a, Reiki master. I was, and within a month I had 2 job offers. And I said, ooh, I think the universe is telling me something. And to me, yoga is a gift. And so I don't feel like I'm teaching yoga. I just feel like I'm sharing this amazing gift. I still teach Reiki. I still do sessions with Reiki, but my primary focus now is yoga therapy.
Interesting.
It's a journey. It's never a straight line.
Absolutely. Nothing is a straight line in life.
No.
And so you are a yoga therapist, but what is your specialization within what you practice?
Well, if we think of yoga as a big pie, we have hot yoga, we've got Bikram, we've got Kundalini, we have all these different types of, yoga. And within one of those slices is yoga therapy. And then within that slice of yoga therapy, we all have specialties. There is yoga for cancer, yoga for arthritis, MS, Parkinson's. I mean, just wonderful, wonderful specialties. My specialty is PTSD and trauma.
Okay. So what is PTSD?
What is PTSD? Boy, that's a Pandora's box, isn't it? The best way to describe PTSD is, have you ever seen 2 dogs fight?
Yes.
Most people have, right? And when they're done fighting and they're walking away from one another, what do? They
tend to walk away whimpering.
Have you ever noticed them shake?
Yes.
So remember that shaking. What they're doing is they're resetting their central nervous system. When they go into fight mode, they leave their upper echelon thinking brain, if they actually have one, and they go into the fight mode. In order to reset the central nervous system and to go back into that other brain, They need to flip a switch, and they do that by shaking. So have you ever been in some sort of trauma-causing experience, maybe a car accident, and you've actually had the shakes afterwards?
Yeah, I have.
You're doing the exact same thing. When we have two brains. We have the upper echelon thinking brain that you and I are in right now, and then we have the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain handles blinking, breathing, telling you to go to the bathroom, like all the things that we don't think about that just happen daily, homeostasis. But it also handles our fight, flight, and freeze mechanism. And when we are in, some sort of an experience that it'll take us right out of the upper echelon thinking and into the reptilian brain. And our brain is wired to either get us out of there, fight our way out of there, or freeze. But we also have to reset our central nervous system after we're done, so we can then go back to the upper echelon brain. That is what shaking does.
Interesting.
Now, what happens is that we as humans don't like to see people shake. When we see someone shaking, what do we want? Oh, come here, let me hold you. Let me strap you to a board, But the shaking is absolutely paramount. If not, that leads us into where we haven't switched over into our upper echelon brain, and now we're stuck in the reptilian brain. And that is PTSD.
Interesting. That's a wonderful explanation.
Thanks.
Very clear. I've never heard it so clear before.
Really?
Really?
Thank you.
And so what happens to, when you're in this reptilian state, what happens to the emotional body and the spiritual body and the physical body? Well, you just explained the physical body, but
it's non-existent. Non-existent. We are wired literally like animals. And, there are three things we're doing in that very moment. We are fleeing, fighting, or freezing. That's it.
Okay.
And what it does is, once we switch back over, reset the central nervous system and switch back over to the upper echelon brain, then we can process the events. But in that place, no processing is happening.
Do you have your own experience with PTSD?
I unfortunately know PTSD intimately. Not something that anybody wants to brag about, but I was actually, my dad is a Vietnam vet. We did not realize for years he suffered with PTSD. And I'm really excited to say in the last 3 to 5 years, he's finally gotten some help. He's been able to lay down the burdens that he carried for so many years. And it's really wonderful to see him relaxed, enjoying life. And it really explains a lot of my childhood. I mean, I didn't have a terrible childhood, but there were moments of chaos. And there was this undercurrent. And so now I understand it. And as an adult and as a clinician, I really understand it. And it's been very therapeutic for me, to make some peace with that. I also am a 2 times rape survivor. I have also lost a child. I'm a bereaved parent. I also had a very traumatic birth experience with my first son, which actually led me into a year-long postpartum depression. I was suicidal.
Wow.
And my husband was active duty and deployed 3 times. And, I don't generally talk about his journey, but I will tell you that there is PTSD involved.
Okay.
So I know it.
Unfortunately, you're friends with it.
I am friends. I'm slightly married, would love to divorce. Yeah, I get the gold star in it.
Wow. Yeah, but it's good to be able to listen to you tell your story, because I think a lot of people actually are affected by PTSD, but maybe they don't know how to talk about it or don't even know what it is. So thank you for sharing.
And, there's no shame. There is no shame in this. This is an actual body mechanism. And if you didn't have PTSD, they actually then put you into the whole sociopath, psychopath realm.
Right.
PTSD is normal. This is a good thing. I mean, it doesn't feel good. Please don't get me wrong. But it is actually, it's a really good thing to if you're going to experience it, that's the thing to experience. Yes, I know it intimately. People who don't go to war get it. I think that's a big misnomer. People think that, oh, you have to be a soldier. You could get it just from, being in a car accident, being in a mugging, watching a mugging. I mean, whatever is trauma to you can create the PTSD. And we all have those different thresholds.
Yes. And that's also very important to note, because you're right. You don't have to have been in a war situation to be affected by it.
You and I could be in a car accident and one of us walk away with PTSD and the other doesn't. It doesn't mean that, I'm weak and you're strong or vice versa. It has nothing to do with that. It has a lot to do with what was your prior stress threshold? Did you have a stressful childhood? Were you under stress prior to the accident actually happening? There are so many things that go into it, and it's so individual. It could be just that day. If you had gotten into the accident the day before, the day after, you may not have. It could be just that day. And so there's so many things that, go into place that's why a group of people can experience the same thing. And some of them get PTSD and some of them don't.
Right. Do you find people are uncomfortable when you want to talk about it?
Oh, yes. That means that there's this whole stigma, there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong. This is actually right. Your body is doing exactly what it's been hardwired to do. It's an amazing process. Now we just have to help you switch over, and get back into the upper echelon thinking and reset your central nervous system. That's all it's really about. Now, a little bit easier said than done.
Of course.
But it can be done. But people have this stigma, there's something wrong with me. And, this all happens in the body. And then it manifests as mental health issues, depression, anxiety, hallucinations, all of these other things. And so people think they're crazy. No, you're not.
Right.
And so once we reset the body, a lot of those other symptoms go away.
Yes. And
but
I'm a big believer you have to accept where you are, and then you can deal with it. And talking about it's a big thing.
Absolutely. But you're talking to people who are still in their reptilian brain. They have not switched over to the higher echelon critical thinking brain. And so you're trying to talk to someone who, in a sense, almost can't hear you.
Right. They're on a different level.
They are.
Did you have a moment in your own life where you realized, I really need to make a change right now, and I better start exploring other options? Or many?
Or many. One that was really poignant for me was I started taking the teacher training courses for yoga. And the company that I was going through, Yoga Fit, which I have to tell you is an amazing teaching establishment, they run a program called Yoga Fit for Warriors, and it's primarily regarding PTSD for veterans. My husband, active duty at the time, we lived right outside of Fort Riley, Kansas. I'm like, I live in the belly of the beast here. I should really take this class. I might be able to help people. And I was about halfway through the first day, and I said, oh, yeah, the first person I got to work on is right here. And I started, it was really interesting because once I started understanding the science behind it, PTSD and yoga, it's not voodoo, it's not witchcraft. There's nothing going on behind the scenes, no smoke and mirrors. It's all science. And once you understand the science, I was like, oh, well, why wouldn't I do this? Like, this makes perfect sense. Right. And that like kind of put me on the trajectory. So yeah, that was a poignant day for me.
But look at you now.
Look at me now on my mat every day.
And for someone who is suffering through either trauma or PTSD, how do you get through the bad days?
Nothing is permanent. That is the one permanent thing we know about our life. Nothing is permanent. Tomorrow is another day. And it'll bring its own challenges, but tomorrow could be better than today or yesterday. And so I really hold on to the fact that nothing is permanent. Everything is temporary. And no matter how bad it gets, I've been worse places. And, I can get through it somehow, some way.
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
What do you think happens to trauma in the body?
What do I think happens to it? Well, I know, and science knows, that trauma actually gets stored in the body on a cellular level. And so you can do as much talk therapy as you want. You can do as much medications. And these are great things. These are wonderful things. I have a therapist I go and I talk to. I am on medications. I totally believe in it. But there is more to healing than those two things. I think they're a great place to start. But at some point you get to a place in your healing and you're like, okay, I'm talking this till I'm blue in the face and nothing is changing. Nothing's happening. You kind of plateau in your healing and you're at a place saying, okay, there's got to be more. And this is where we really need to delve into the body. We need to release that trauma from the body. And that's what I do. I literally help people release trauma from their body.
Yes. That's amazing. So that brings us
I have
to
the best job in the world.
You do. You have an amazing job. What is yoga therapy? Explain to us.
Well, I explained, we have different specialties. Obviously mine is, PTSD and trauma. I focus on releasing the trauma from the body. That's one of the things that I focus on. Have you ever heard of the psoas muscle?
Yes, I have.
Thank you. Finally. For those who don't know, the psoas muscle is also known as your hip flexor. And in my humble opinion, the hip flexor psoas muscle is the most important muscle of your body. And I know people think that that's crazy, but have you ever been ill or injured and you've curled up into the fetal position?
Absolutely.
It is the hip flexor that does that. Without those muscles, you would be, leaving all of the vital organs open for trauma. By curling up into the fetal position, it protects all of those vital organs. So without that, I think it's a pretty important muscle.
It is.
But additionally, it holds all of your emotion. It is the emotional warehouse of your body. And so your happiness, your joy, your frustration, your anger, your grief, everything is held there. And so I find it really humorous when people are, oh gosh, my hips are really tight. And the first thing I'm thinking is, what's going on in your life? So we work that muscle to exhaustion. And when we do that, it seems to quiver, spasm. Now, some people feel it and some people don't. And there's no right or wrong answer. There are times my clients will say, my legs are like jelly. my thighs are twitching. And I'm like, good, let it happen. That means that muscle is releasing. You're releasing some of that baggage that you don't need to be carrying. I have clients that tell me, I feel like I'm floating. Good. That's good. It gives them more bandwidth to be able then to take on more challenges that they're, faced with in their everyday life. So that's how we get that trauma and all of that anger and the frustration, all of that crap. That's how we get it out of the body.
Mm.
Now, that being said, it's a very deep muscle. It's the deepest muscle of the body. And so there is a scientific way we actually go about working to get into that muscle. So you will experience a full body workout in my class. You may or may not break a sweat, but once we get into it, you're going to know and you're going to be like, oh, there's a muscle I haven't felt in a while. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I do.
What's the difference between a yoga therapy class and a yoga class?
Well, when we were talking about that pie, we were talking about different, Ashtanga and Kundalini and hot yoga, all great things, fabulous methods. And, a fitness-based class, you're there for fitness and mindfulness. And these people are very well trained to do what they're doing. Now, that being said, if you have PTSD and you have an emotional release on one of their mats, which can happen, are they educated to be able to help you in that moment? Do they know why you're having a release? Do they know how to keep you safe? Do they know how to keep the rest of their class safe and themselves safe? There are particular safety protocols that need to be in place in order to be able to work with clientele like this. And so you need to make sure that, you're in a place where your needs are going to be met and everyone is going to remain safe.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the big difference.
And it is a big difference.
And again, these people are incredibly well trained to do what they do.
There's so many different types of yoga out there. And I always say that to people who are exploring it, to really truly explore it, because there is so many different styles and everybody's trained for a slightly different thing. And, if you're looking for more of like a trauma-based healing, yoga therapy might work for you.
It's like you wouldn't go to a dentist to have your braces put on. You're going to go to an orthodontist.
Right.
You need to have a specialist.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And that's what it is.
And that's a good way to describe it. So could you give me an example of a yoga therapy session or program with you?
Well, some other things that actually make a difference in my class is the lights are always kept on. I never leave my mat. And if I have to leave my mat, I will tell you exactly where I'm going, and so you can watch me leave my mat. I generally never touch my clients. If I have to touch my client, I usually use a lot of cueing before I actually say, okay, I need to leave my mat and help this person. But you'll know, and I will always ask if I can touch you. I usually come up right alongside someone and show them whatever before I actually touch them, because some people don't like to be touched.
Yes.
You will never find a strap in my class.
Okay.
Too many people have been tied down, either by physically or by words. No straps. Even during Shavasana, the lights are kept on. I have eye pillows that people can use if they want to block out the light. But that's their choice. During Shavasana, which is our final relaxation, most people lie on their back, palms are up. Well, that's a very exposing type of pose.
Yes, it is.
And so in my class, you can lie however you want. You want to lie on your belly? Lie on your belly. You want to lie on your side? Lie on your side. whatever makes people comfortable. Because we're there to meet people where they're at, and they may not be comfortable lying spread eagle on the floor.
Yes.
That's totally cool. They're getting out of it what they need in that very moment. Who am I to say how they have to lay?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you work one-on-one or more with
In my class, you're both. I do both.
Okay.
There's clients that are not ready to be in a group type of situation.
Yeah.
And so, then I see one-on-ones. There are others who just want me all to themselves. The other thing is I talk throughout the entire session. It is the 1 hour Anissa stand-up routine. You are never alone with your thoughts. And, I talk about food. I talk about all kinds of things. I'm not a talk therapist. Now I can listen, but I'm not a talk therapist. I'm there to help you release the trauma from your body. And so I kind of entertain your brain while you're doing it. So it's never scary. You're never alone with your thoughts.
You take the pressure off.
We do a lot of laughing. Like I said, most of the time we're talking about food, which means that usually, afterwards we're all like ravished. We have to go eat. But, I'm always, what is everybody doing this weekend? Did you hear about this going on? I mean, that way too, they know that they don't need to sit around during the weekend. There are activities and things that they can go do. If I'm seeing clients from week to week to week, I'll say, hey, how did your kid do in his football game this weekend? How did that soccer game go? It's very interactive.
Yes. Yeah, which is great.
It's absolutely wonderful. The other thing that we really work on, and it kind of happens very naturally, is, with PTSD and trauma, the brain and the body become disconnected. With yoga, you have to be present. You can't be thinking about your grocery list. You can't be thinking about the past, which is, PTSD wants to drag you to the past. Your anxiety wants to make you think about the future. You really can't do that. And so we are bridging that brain-body connection. We are really helping to reestablish it. And one question that I ask quite frequently is, where are you feeling this now? Here we are in this pose. Where are you feeling it? And in a lot of respects, there is no wrong answer. I really almost don't even care where they feel it. I just want to know that they're feeling something. Right. That means to me that it's a reconnected, established connection. That's what's important to me. Sometimes people say to me, I don't feel this. That's okay. That's totally cool. Maybe you'll feel it next week.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll feel it tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So, that's one of the big things that I do. And I offer tons and tons of alternatives. I've worked with folks who are amputees, in wheelchairs, crutches, cancer. And so, I've had to learn pretty quick about how to, offer different poses for different people. And so I offer a lot of alternatives. And what I found is that, by saying, hey, we could do it this way, or you could do it this way, or this way, or this way, it gives people the sense of, this is my body, and how do I feel? How do I want to go? How does what is in my body right now? So there's really no wrong way to do a pose. As long as they're in alignment, they're not hurting themselves. Why shouldn't they have options?
Absolutely.
It's giving people their power back, and their power had been taken away. And so it gives them their power back.
And that's a beautiful thing.
So it really is. And so there's a lot of psychology that goes into what I do. And, a lot of science. So I think in a roundabout way, I answered your question.
I think you did. So what is the SSAS community?
Well, it is a membership that I am creating. As a 2-time rape survivor, I've had the opportunity to work with other women who were like me, who had survived some sort of negative sexual experience. I've also had the opportunity to work with veterans, and I love both groups of people. For me personally, though, I mean, I've never been to war.
Okay.
But I've been raped. And working with women who are like me gave me so much satisfaction. It just did something in my heart. And, it doesn't matter how much money you get paid, you can't put a price on that. And to be able to help other women who were like me, for me, that's where it's at. And so I've chosen to work with this group of people. And it's a membership where, at 3:00 in the morning when you wake up and your mind is racing, or you've just had a nightmare or whatever, you can tap into this membership and it's there 24/7. You could do a yoga class with me 24/7. There will be live sessions available, but there will be recorded sessions that you can tap into. There'll be yoga nidras, which are like guided meditations, all kinds of things that are, available to you to help you out in that moment. Because, there's no timetable on PTSD. It doesn't happen from 9 to 5.
No, there's not. That's a wonderful resource you're offering.
Thank you.
How long do you feel it takes for you to see results with your clients?
That's a great question. Everyone is an individual. You could come to 3 classes and be like, all right, I'm good. I have clients who've been with me for years.
Right.
There's no right or wrong answer, however long it takes you. And it doesn't mean that, somebody's better than you because they got, well sooner. They're not you.
Everybody's on their own journey.
It's totally individual. I mean, your PTSD is really individual, and so is your journey. What I would recommend is that, testing out different yoga therapists. Not everybody likes me, and that's okay. I think it's great. I think 6 classes is 5 to 6 classes is a good benchmark. Go to a class 5 to 6 times, be with the same person. And after that point, you're like, either I really like this instructor and I like this class, or great. Right. As long as you're getting your needs met, I don't care whose class you're in.
Absolutely.
That's the important thing. Your needs are being met. And so I don't take offense when people say, find somebody that works with you.
Yes, absolutely. Explore your options. You're right.
Absolutely. So I don't take that.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. It is important for people to explore. I always say that to people too. Because the option to heal is out there. You have to find it. And it's okay to just keep trying different things.
Absolutely.
What do you wish people suffering from PTSD knew?
You're not alone. You're not crazy. And it can get better. But you have to be open to it. There is more to it than just talk therapy and meds. And that your journey is individual. And so it's not a one size fits all. What I tell everyone is that you should have a book. And you should write down everything that you try, and as much information, the date, the time, who it was with, what you were doing. I mean, just as much detail as you can. And then, some people say, oh, I've tried essential oils and they don't work. Okay. When did you try them? Oh, it was like, 18 months ago. Okay. Well, that's where you were 18 months ago, but you're a different person now. You're in a different place in your journey. And so even though you tried it, try it again. And keep track of the things that you've tried. Keep track of when you tried them and go back to them 6 months, 10 months, whatever. because you're in a different place. And so just because something didn't work back then, it could work now, and vice versa. You're going to find after a while, things aren't maybe, gosh, I really like this essential oil. It worked for me. And now it's like, that's okay. Try a different oil.
Right.
Try this, try that.
That's very good advice.
Just when you think you've got it figured out, it's going to change. It's kind of like raising a child. Just when you think you got it figured out, it changes. Keep trying.
Yes. It's not linear. It's not a straight line. Nothing in life.
It is not a straight line.
But healing is definitely not a straight line. What inspires you to keep working with yoga therapy?
The people. Absolutely the people. Watching, people come in when I'm doing, in-person classes, watching them come in and like you can see the chaos. You can feel it radiating off of them. And then somewhere between the time they walk through the door and the time they're ready to walk out, it's gone. And they're brighter and they're lighter and they're beaming. And you know that you're sending them out better able to handle whatever it is they're about to, be faced with. And even if they found peace for an hour, it's still an hour.
Yes.
And it's just amazing to be able to watch that. That inspires me.
That's wonderful.
Knowing that I've played a small part in somebody's healing and peace.
Yes. And I'm sure you've played many, many parts in people's healings.
Well, thank you.
What advice do you have for someone who is afraid to reach out?
Well, if it sucks where you are, it's going to continue to suck. Nobody is going to think you're crazy. Nobody's going to think you're wrong. And if you find people who say that to you, you've talked to the wrong people. Keep finding people who will help you. Mm-hmm. There are people out there, they want to help. If you tell somebody and, they didn't believe me, find somebody else.
Good advice. Anissa, what is your favorite word?
Fabulous. I love that word. And I shorten it and I use fabu. And I love it. And my friends know that I'm the only person in the world who uses fabu. And fabulous. Fabulous is my favorite word.
Nice one. What is your least favorite word?
Oh, God. And I'm going to have to say it. Oh, moist.
Okay.
Oh.
Not your favorite word.
I hate that word. No. And my boys will torment me because they know. And so when they really want to get under my skin, they'll like whisper, moist.
Oh, that's funny. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
I love watching people who are so into what they're doing. So an example of this, I love watching Food Network and, DIY shows because these people are so into what they're doing. I love watching, there's this one gal, she's a hairdresser and she's just so about the business aspect of it. There was this show called Hotel Impossible. And the guy who was in this show, he was so into running a hotel. And I mean, this guy lived, breathed, ate, drank, everything, just running a hotel. And when I watch people or I'm around people who are just so laser focused and thrilled about what they do, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get back into what I'm doing. That's what gets me going.
Nice. What turns you off?
People who don't care about what they're doing, like the proverbial plumber who comes in and has plumber's crack. Like, dude, come on. Like, put on a belt. Like, you should care enough.
Right.
Like
put a little effort in.
I mean, people who really don't care about what they're doing, they're showing up, they are getting a paycheck. They're, you can tell they're totally offline, they're not present. Yeah, that just, I'm like, eh.
Okay.
Totally uninspiring to me.
What sound or noise do you love?
The sound of my boys laughing.
What sound or noise do you hate?
My mother crying. I can't take that.
Yeah, well, that's a tough one. If it exists, and it doesn't have to, because I think you're probably in your zone, but what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always wanted to be a chef. I actually was going to go to school to be a chef. So I love to cook, still do. And I was actually at one point being trained for opera. And so
Really?
I love to sing. Yeah. And so I would love to sing. I think that either in a former life or my next life, I'm going to be a jazz singer.
Okay.
I think that's, yeah.
That's awesome. What profession would you not like to attempt?
I can't see myself doing anything plumbing related, sewer system related, garbage related, and I couldn't work in a zoo. Okay. I like animals, but the smell, I'm very sensitive to smell. I can't do it. Okay. Can't do it.
You don't have to. That's good.
I don't even go to zoos. Like I won't even go to a zoo. Can't. It smells.
Okay. And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear when you arrive?
Let's get the party started.
Nice. Anissa, where can people find you?
www.traumahealingyoga.com.
And what gift are you offering our audience today?
I have a free Facebook group. It is for women who have experienced a negative sexual experience. And within that group, once you join, there is a free Yoga Nidra session that's waiting for you. Yoga Nidra is kind of like a guided meditation, but it's a little bit more. Quite frankly, it's very yummy. And if you've never experienced one, you should really totally do so because it's very yummy. And so that is what's waiting for you.
That's wonderful. And yes, Yoga Nidras are lovely. So I do recommend them.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom with everybody. And I know your message is very important and you offer it in a very well explained way for a topic that I think is tough to talk about. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here and being able to get that message out. Really, it's all science-based. There's no smoke and mirrors here. It's very clinical, actually. And people need to understand that there's nothing wrong with them. This is totally natural and that there is help. So Thank you for letting me get that message out.
Oh, you're so welcome. And please reach out to Anissa. She's the real deal, for sure. If you're suffering, if you're struggling, she can help.
And that goes out to anyone else who maybe hasn't experienced a negative sexual, experience. I would be willing to help out anybody, and point them in the right direction to, really be able to get them situated with any kind of help that they need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.